Okay, I figured I'd be going live now. I got a little sidetracked. I wasn't exactly going to do this right away. I was getting ahead of myself a little bit because I wanted to play some music to start my episode. So let me jump back here a second and let me play the song I was going to play to begin the episode with. Please forgive me for my uh, not being prepared. Wasn't quite ready for this. This is the Mamas and the Papas with Straight Shooter. You might have heard this in the trailer or the movie Once Upon a Time in America by Quentin Tarantino. Not America, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino. So there was that. So I got a little off kilter because it's been a while since I did this and not used to how I was doing it. So hey, this is Dylan Knows, episode 309, a minute in. And I started a little earlier than I wanted to because, again, as I said, I jumped the gun a little bit. But hey, no one's watching anyway, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, today's episode is episode 309, Pumpkin Spice Spam, which actually I can't see anywhere around here. It used to be on my screen, but it's not. It's one of the new features using the YouTube live streaming cam view. Because as I said last week, I am now a cam girl. So anyway, today's episode is going to focus a lot on, despite the temperature outside being in the upper 90s and hot and humid again, and it's going to be that way probably till the end of next week, end of this week, I should say. A lot of stuff about fall and Halloween in this episode, which I guess with September only a few weeks away, why not? And a lot of movie trailers came out this week I want to talk about. Two really bizarre stories that are connected in a weird way in two different areas of the country. Don't know what's going on about that. Some interesting other stories. 23-year-old grandfather. What else do I got going on? Pokemon World Championships and what's coming up in Pokemon Go. For those who know, I'm a Pokemon Go player. We got that coming up. What else we got? Some science stuff. A Daredevil moose. That should be pretty cool also. And also, I think I'm going to start the episode off with Bill Bateman's. Now, I don't know if a lot of areas have a Bill Bateman's around them. I know here in Maryland, there were, at their height, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I could think of top of my head. Back when I worked for the radio station back in the early 2000s, we used to do wing eating contests because Bill Bateman's was mostly known for how good their wings are. And so we did wing eating contests during football season. And Bill Bateman's has always had kind of a special place in my heart, as it were. I'm bringing all this up because one of the last remaining Bill Bateman's, there are a bunch of been closing over the last few weeks. The last remaining Bill Bateman's that I know of, I think there's one out in Parkville, but I don't know if that one's closing or not. The one near us here in Reisterstown is closing its doors today, August 18th. So today is the last day for Bill Bateman's down the street from our house. We moved here, Dawn and I moved here in 2004, and at that point it had been around since 2001, and it's very possible that I might have done a few of the wing eating contests up here in 2001, 2002, and it's also possible that we came to eat up here because our friends lived up here, and so they might invite us to dinner every once in a while, so we drive up here and they might just take us there. But 2004 is where this all started because we moved into the house we're in now. Bill Bateman's is literally only about 5 minutes away from us by driving. And Bill Bateman's is basically your typical bar restaurant. It's you walk in and it's a bar. You know, you get your bar food and stuff like that and your drinks, and you have stuff on tap and hard drinks like that. They also have lots of televisions that show lots of sports. And then you go, there's the restaurant. So you have a room if you want to have a party, you can have a room there. There's also lots of other rooms in case the place got packed with stuff. As I was saying, the Bill Bateman's here opened in 2001. Now, at that time, the Baltimore Ravens, the football team that I cheer for and is in the area, their practice area is in this area, is in Owings Mills. When they moved here in 1996, they took over the Baltimore Colts' old practice area, which is down the street from here, so, which is now Stevenson University. Then they moved, I think, after they won the Super Bowl in 2000, maybe 2001, might have been older than, might have been later than that, to a new place, also about 10 minutes from this house, but in a different direction. And this place called the Castle. It's a much needed upgrades over the one that was over on the other side of me. So at that time, from 96 to probably about, I don't know, maybe 2002, 3, something like that, my radio station I was working for, WLAF, and its sister station, 1300 AM WJFK, we were doing the Ravens radio shows. Or rather, we were broadcasting the Ravens games on the radio. So we were invited to go to every home game. So every home game, during the years I worked for the radio station, I would go down to Ravens Stadium and would set up a tent party outside of the stadium where we'd have Ruth Chris Steakhouse food and, friends of the radio station and Ruth Chris Steakhouse and people who won contests on the radio would come and mingle and eat. Free beer, free drinks. It was my job to make sure that all the first of all, the signage was set up, and also to keep an eye on the drinks because we had cans of beer and soda and stuff like that. So that was fun. But I bring this up because since they were in the area, the radio station 1300 WJFK needed to fill their time slots. So they thought it'd be interesting if they asked certain Ravens players if they would do a radio show. Basically, it would be a Ravens player with a radio personality, and they would do it like on a Monday night, maybe not Monday night because they might play on that, but like a Tuesday or Wednesday night when they weren't playing. And they would, just talk about the game and stuff like that. So you would have Ravens players and a radio person come and do live broadcasts, a lot from Bill Bateman. So there was a lot of live broadcasts from Bill Bateman's right down the street from here. Their walls are adorned with Ravens jerseys that were signed, Orioles jerseys that were signed. Hell, there's even a Franklin High School football shirt signed because Franklin High School's football team has won the state championship about 2 times in the last 5 years. So they're pretty good also. So you had a lot of that going on. And as I said, we had wing eating competitions during that time as well. It wasn't necessarily during these radio shows that I can recall. I don't think we did them during the radio shows, but we actually did events with Bill Bateman's where we would do these wing eating contests, and the winner would win a prize pack to the stadium, go down to the tent party outside and have tickets to the game and stuff like that. So I bring all this up also because in 2000 is when I started dating my wife, and I've already told you the story about how we met, stuff like that, but our first official date was a bowling and dinner date we had with our friends back on Friday, September 29th in 2000. But before then, my wife actually came to one of the wing eating competitions at the Towson Bill Bateman's, which is no longer there since Towson University is undergoing a massive change. And so she came in and we had a good time, and she hung out for a little bit and watched that. And it was a good sign of things were going, because we had a rough start to our relationship, but then this sort of cemented, and then we had our actual first date a few days later, and the rest is history. So that has played a part in it. And our friends who set us up, they moved out here, and then when we moved in together, I guess we would occasionally come out here, maybe eat with them. Or then when we moved here in 2004, every Sunday we would go to Bill Bateman's for half-price burger night. They have really, really good burgers. At that time, Bill Bateman's had just started, so their menu was thick. I mean, it was like a spiral notebook. There were tons of stuff you could order, and it was popular. It's hugely popular. I said mostly bar food stuff, burgers, roast turkey, sandwiches, wraps. They had all kinds of stuff. And so every Sunday we would do half-price burger night out here with our friends, which is always fun because particularly during football season, we'd be watching some of the 4 o'clock games ending and stuff like that, or maybe a Ravens game was on at 4 o'clock, and people who were either watching the 4 o'clock Ravens game or had been there at 1 o'clock drinking were still there partying after they won, or drinking their sorrows away after they lost. So it was kind of fun, but it was just a fun little thing to do. So we did that often, a lot. And it was good because, a lot of the burgers were, the most expensive one I saw was like $13.99. That's the crab dip one. So half price on that is like $7, so that's pretty good. Not bad for a hamburger. And the hamburger's pretty good too. But gradually, as the years progressed, the menu started to get dwindled down, and less people were. It wasn't quite as bustling as it had been, but still it did pretty good, because there were still times when we would go in there and they would be doing the dinner and painting thing, which I haven't seen there in a while, where it's a dinner and paint night where you get somebody who's a professional artist and they paint a picture, and then they're going to teach you how they made that picture. So you can get dinner, and then you and your date or your friends or whatever can go, and they'll teach you how to draw that same painting, what they did and how they did it. And so you would do it, and you would see if you could recreate the painting that was up there. So there's a lot of that, a lot of birthday parties, a lot of I saw like a baby shower was there recently also. So they had a lot of parties there, and we had a lot of food. And the food was, as I said, was still pretty good. It was fairly inexpensive. And then the kids came along, and we didn't go for a while, because going out to dinner always seemed like it was going to be expensive anyway, because it's not worth it to spend so much money going out to dinner when you're particularly saving for daycare and stuff like that. So once the kids got older and they needed to do that, we started going out to dinner more often. So like every Saturday, it seemed like we would be going out to Bill Bateman's, because the kids loved it. They loved the crab pretzel. And so we'd go to Bill Bateman's, and we soon got the status of regulars. People would know exactly who we were, what we pretty much wanted, and sat us in right locations, and were always happy to see us because I tip well. But so that was good. So that was kind of sad when last Saturday we went in for the last time. We're not going to go. We didn't go in this weekend because it's just good. They're already getting rid of stuff. So even last Saturday, they didn't have the jumbo crab pretzel. They only had the medium ones left. So they're getting rid of stuff. They're not going to reorder stuff since they're closing today. So that was kind of sad that happened, but it was still a very enjoyable thing. We would get special treatment because of us being regulars. Like there was one waitress who we would order sodas, and for the kids, we would order them the regular sodas, which are like $2 or $3, something like that. There was one waitress who would always make it the kids one, which was free, even though she used the big one. And also there was one time I went that I didn't have to pay for my drinks either, because they made it water. So that was fun. So there was just all kinds of great. There was a time last year when the Ravens clinched the playoffs, and we happened to be in there also. We were watching the game, and there was like a family at the table next to me. We were watching it, and we were talking back and forth. And then when they won, we got up and like high-fived and did all kinds of stuff. So it was kind of nice. They had bands there every Saturday night, so then they did Reisterstown Idol, where singers who wanted to compete in a American Idol sort of contest could go and win prizes and stuff like that. So, and then karaoke. And they used to have a video game wing back when it first opened up, and pool tables and stuff like that. So there was a lot more to it than just the restaurant and bar. But gradually, I guess, as costs went up and people weren't coming and stuff like that, it just started going downhill till recently. The menu going from a binder to about a one-page menu thing, sort of new things were going out, and then we got the word a couple weeks ago they were shutting down. So today's the last day. So farewell to you, Bill Bateman's. Thank you for feeding us and being well to us. Never had bad service there, even though I always hear about people claiming they had bad service. People are just bitching about every little thing. I mean, there were times where our server might not have been as attentive to us as expected, but at the same time, you have to look around and see how busy they might have been and stuff like that. And and even if they were inattentive, eventually, it still only took about an hour from when we entered to when we left, from getting our appetizers, our food and stuff, and eating and getting out of there. So farewell to the Bill Bateman's. You will be missed. And let's hope that something else moves in there that's just as good. So yesterday we went to J&P's, which is another local restaurant that's been around for a while. It's more of a localized, not a chain, it's in our area. I think there's one other one maybe up a little further in Westminster, but that's about it. They have fantastic pasta. It's an Italian restaurant, and my kids loved it. It's a bit more pricey than Bill Bateman's was, so we might not be going there as often. So, but the good news is we've got lots of stuff to do around here. We got a Red Robin, we've got Green Turtle, we've got an Olive Garden, we have what else do we have? IHOP is down the road. We're going to do that for my son's birthday next weekend because he wants to go have breakfast for dinner for his birthday. So we're going to go down to IHOP. It's a little further away, but still there. We've got Chick-fil-A, we've got McDonald's, we've got all kinds of stuff in the area. So there's Little Caesars and pizza. Well, maybe not pizza anymore since they're closing stuff up, but lots of different things. And then who knows what's going to come down the line. And then you can go further down to Owings Mills. There's a whole bunch of stuff in a new shopping area. And then there's new shopping areas opening up all the time. So we'll see what happens. There's going to be places for us to be able to go. So let's just hope that something moves into Bill Bateman's spot that is just as good as Bill Bateman. So that would be nice. So I've spent 16 minutes talking about this. But that's the end. And Bill Bateman's We'll Miss You. So let's move on to what's going on in the world this week, starting with chimpanzees. I got two stories about chimpanzees. First one is a chimpanzee learned how to dry their hands with leaves. They were watching one of their keepers or whatever at the zoo wash their hands after and then wipe it with a towel. So after one of the monkeys got his hands wet or something like that, he grabbed a leaf and did the same sort of wiping. So monkey see, monkey do. And again, showing that animals are starting to evolve a little bit and make it more interesting. There's also a chimpanzee who was mesmerized by a woman's twerking. A woman decided that she was going to put her butt on the window and start twerking in front of this chimpanzee. And he sat there and he looked at it and stared at it and was amazed by it. So once again, proof that, monkeys and humans are not that far away from each other. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I'm going to jump around a little bit because the next line I have here is one of the first trailers. I'm going to see if I can find all the other trailer stories I have in here. So just bear with me a few seconds while I just talk about all the trailers that came out this week. There was a lot. The first one was a trailer called Mary, which I wasn't really going to look at because it's a horror film. But then when we got the premise of it, it's a haunted house movie, but on a boat. And that in turn is an interesting idea because in a haunted house, people are always screaming at the TV, why don't you just leave? Yes, obviously there's, stuff might block your exit on some of these movies, but a lot of time, you could just run the hell out of there and say, I'm done. I'm not going to hang out in this haunted house anymore. But in this case, you can't go anywhere because you're on this boat. So it stars Gary Oldman, and I forget who the woman is, Emily Mortimer, I think. And they bought a boat that they are going to use for their retirement to just go sailing around. They bought it cheap. That's why they didn't think much about it. And then they started going on the boat and taking it for its first maiden voyage. And then everything just goes to hell all of a sudden with creatures doing weird things on board, little girls possessing the family members and not being able to control the boat. And the boat is actually like taking them to a certain location. So it sounds interesting. It's good. It's going to be I'm assuming it's going to be out sometime around Halloween because that makes like a perfect sense for a Halloween type of movie to come out. So there's that. So let me go down here again. Dolomite Is My Name trailer. This is a Netflix movie that I discussed a little bit when it first announced that Eddie Murphy was coming back and making a Netflix movie from the writers of Ed Wood and The People vs. Larry Flint and that one movie about the painters. These guys, Scott Alexander and someone else, they are people who love writing biopics. And this one about people you don't expect. And this one is about a real person. I don't know the actor's actual name, but Dolomite was a character created who helped usher in the blaxploitation era in the 1970s. So this movie stars Eddie Murphy and actually has Wesley Snipes in it as well, but also has a whole big cast of really good former and recent popular African-American actors and actresses. and looks like it's basically an all African American cast for the most part. But it's Eddie Murphy doing comedy, drama, and everything all together, and showing he still has the acting chops to do stuff. And also Wesley Snipes coming back as well, and this is their first collaboration, I think, ever. And it's interesting to see that Wesley seems to be back also. But this trailer just looks fantastic and explains basically the premise of the story. There was a comedian who's done a whole bunch of different things. Not a comedian, but like a personality who's done a whole bunch of things. He wanted to write a comedy album, and it didn't quite play. So he creates this character, Dolomite, tries to use it in this comedy thing. It still doesn't play. So then he decides he's going to try to make it in the movies, and that's where you're going to see that stuff. But it looks like a good thing. It's going to be on Netflix sometime this year, I would assume. And I think I'm actually going to check it out. But it is, as I said, it looks like Eddie Murphy's back. It looks like Wesley Snipes is back. It looks like that Eddie hopefully might get some Academy love from it. We'll see. But it was hilarious, and I've watched it a bunch of times as well. Let's see. Do I have any other ones that are on this page? I don't see any on this page. I know there's some over here. Let me just look down here again. Anything on here? I can't see. Well, maybe I'll come back to them because I can't. There's a couple other ones that came out right now, but those were the big ones that I saw first. And Last Christmas. There's one right there. Last Christmas is a Christmas romantic comedy starring Emilia Clarke of Game of Thrones fame. That came out this week as well. The trailer did. The movie comes out obviously around Christmas time, but it looks like a typical romantic comedy. She's a loser who, I think at one time she was drunk and she might have accidentally killed somebody in a car accident or something like that. So her niece or something like that. And so her family is aghast at her, but someone decides to take pity on her and hires her to work in a Christmas store dressed as an elf. But she is in her own kind of downward spiral and is not doing really, really well. So people are trying to get her to get back out of this funk. And of course, it's around Christmas time. She runs into this guy, and it's hard to tell exactly what's going on. But she runs this guy that I guess she might be immediately attracted to. But again, like with romantic comedies, they're going to be sparring with each other, and then they sort of separate, and then some other stuff happens, and then she runs into him again. Like every time she seems to be at the lowest ebb, he returns in her life, coincidentally, I would assume, and tries to pull her out of it. And then eventually, I think she decides that she's going to make a change, and she does well with that. And that's what I think a lot of the film looks like to me. As I said, it was the first trailer, and it's hard to see what else was going on. Little Women trailer, the new updated version of the new version of that with Emma Watson and Saoirse, I forget her last name, came out also. It's going to focus a little bit more on, it's not really a modern day Little Woman. It seems to be not set in the Civil War era like the original novel was, but still in a time when women were kind of oppressed. And Emma Watson plays the oldest daughter, Meg, I guess. So that's interesting. She's not playing with the main character. She's more of a co-starring role. Saoirse Ronan, I think is her name, is the one who plays Jo, who's the main character. So that's kind of an interesting take. And then, Little Women is always an interesting story, and they haven't done one since like the 90s, which was the Winona Ryder, Claire Danes one. So it might be time for another one. It's always one of those, and it looks like, as I said, not set in the Civil War era, so maybe it'd be good to branch it out to more like Victorian era, 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900 type of stuff. So that could be a possibility. So there was that one also. If there's another one, I can't see it off the top of my head right now, so we'll just fix this because I know what it is. So when I get to it again, it won't be, what the hell is this? So we'll see about that. So if I find across any other ones, they're there. But there's a couple of those trailers. Go ahead and just go to YouTube, type in the names of the movies, and they'll pop up, and you can check them out for yourself. Y the Last Man, which was a great comic book that FX was going to do a TV show on. And then I learned somehow that they weren't going to do it anymore, which kind of depressed me. So I just said, okay, well, I give up. Well, then there was a story that came out this week that it's actually still on. They were just changing showrunners. So the movie is the TV show is still set to debut next year on FX. So again, it's a wait and see type of thing. But the fact is that they mentioned that it's, and that was from Brian K. Vaughan, who created the comic that is coming up. I think he's the producer of the show. Says, yeah, we just have new showrunners and it's still coming for spring of 2020. So keep our fingers crossed and hopefully they do it real well. So we'll see. A huge 1,100-pound sauropod bone was dug up in the southwestern France. In southwestern France. 1,100-pound bone, and the picture of it is like the size of this room. So it was huge and it was heavy, and you can only imagine what that dinosaur must have looked like when it was alive. So how the heck are you going to get it out of there without damaging it? So that's to be continued, I guess. Giant isopods, which are these giant sort of slug-like creatures, were videotaped eating an alligator. These fucking little, I'm sorry. Oh, it's Sunday. I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to get in trouble now. Those little, it looked like potato bugs, but giant size. There was a bunch of them attacking an alligator and eating it. It's just, that's crazy that A, such creatures exist, and B, they can take down an alligator. So, ugh. Nicolas Cage, who's very interesting, has a very interesting career. Early 80s, he was, okay actor. The 90s was his best time, really, for the most part. Early 2000s, did a really good time. And then he sort of went on this whole craziness spin with his career and all kinds of weird things going on. Well, apparently, one of his most famous films was National Treasure, obviously, about the discovery of a treasure that harkened back to the era of our founding fathers. And it's a fun movie. It's a PG-rated action adventure film set in present day where Sean Bean doesn't die, though he plays the bad guy, and takes you through the history of the United States on this treasure hunt. And it's a fun, action-packed, funny, great little movie. Well, in real life, Nicolas Cage actually went on a quest for the Holy Grail. Now, I guess when he was taking some time off, this is what I read in the article, when he was taking some time off from acting and stuff like that, he did a lot of reading and just sort of zoning out and just kind of just getting himself, what the hell is this? Getting himself reoriented, as it were. It feels like there's something crawling on me, but there's nothing there. Weird. It feels like a loose hair, but there's nothing there. It's sort of right here. Anyway, so he was doing some reading once, and he got interested in the story for the Holy Grail and the clues that were left behind and stuff like that. So I guess he still had some money, or he was somehow able to barter passage to a group of people who were actually using some of these clues from some of these books and looking for the Holy Grail. So he actually went on these types of trips looking for the Holy Grail, and do the digging and the investigating and the walking through dark corridors and in caves and stuff like that. He did all that for about a year, from what I heard. So, hey, do what you want to do, man. That's great. Want to be happier? Studies say live near water. Now, I guess that would make sense. I mean, living at the beach seems to be like everybody's dream. I mean, I guess if you don't have any responsibilities or a job or whatever, even if you do, you can come back and you would have the ocean in your backyard or whatever with the rhythmic roaring of the waves. Or if you live near a lake, like my friend Cheryl from Diamond does, it's a calming, sort of relaxing sort of way. You just sit out and just watch the water. You can hear it, even waves. There's small waves like in lakes and stuff like that. And just see animals on the water, people fishing or people swimming, stuff like that. And I can kind of see if you live near water, it might be good. But That's the problem, is that in order to live near water, it's fairly expensive, I would assume, particularly if you live in the ocean. Live near the ocean. And if you go to a lot of those places that are near the ocean, a lot of it is tourist dollar related stuff. So if you live in Key West or stuff like that. Now, Florida is a different story because water is all over the country, or all over the state rather, all along the coastline. And so there's probably lots of places to live near there. So they say if you want to be happier, live near water. And I can kind of see that. The study isn't totally outrageous, but at the same time, it's like, well, it's probably going to cost you a lot of money to live near water. So hey, you would be happy because you're rich. So a Texas woman had plastic surgery to look like Ivanka Trump. I don't really have anything else to say about that except, oh my God, really? Thanks to robotics, humans can now have tails. That's right. If you want a tail, there are robotic engineers who are creating tails for humans. I don't know to what use for them or reasoning for them, but there it is. This is a story close to my heart because all you who've watched the show and know this and know me know I'm a comic book fan and I love comic books. And this story is it's just dumb people again. So a thief steals a bunch of comics from a comic store, probably some, ones that are, pretty expensive and, you think, okay, so a smart person, you would steal those comics and you would maybe sell them online or go to another comic store in like another state or something like that. Probably online, probably better, but go to someplace else that wasn't near this comic store and try to sell those books to get money for them. And online, probably the best. eBay, stuff like that. This thief, however, decided they were going to be like the Riddler and prove how smart they were. So they went back to the comic store that they had stolen these books from and tried to sell the comic book store their stolen books back. Now think about this. Say you steal Amazing Spider-Man 1 through 50, okay, just as an example. And the comic book store owner knows Spider-Man 1 through 50 has been stolen. And a lot of times they've probably given it up for it to be lost. They might have done, say, hey, if you see this, they might have talked to some of their local buddies around the area. Say, hey, if someone comes in with issues 1 through 50 of Spider-Man, they were stolen from my shop, blah, 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 whatever. The temerity of this person to come back and say, hey, this is what I found in my attic, and it's a box of Spider-Man 1 through 50. Isn't that convenient? So, moron. Oh, well. But good news. That was a good story. It ended well for the comic book shop, and that's what we wanted. We didn't want the bad guys to win. Now, here's a story I teased earlier today, 33 minutes ago, about two separate weird stories that happened this week in different parts of the country that are kind of connected. I guess, but you can take a look at it different ways. This was the first one, and this was just a bizarre picture that we got from one of the doorbell cams. So apparently in Virginia, a community in Virginia, early this week, Monday, Tuesday-ish, people were waking up in the morning and discovered old TVs on their porch. Now, these are the old ones that have the tubes, the ones that are not the flat screen they use now, the ones that are like this wide. And they were just placed on random people's porches. I don't know if they were working or what the reason was for it, but they were just dropping off these old school TVs at random. It wasn't specific people they were going for. They were just dropping them off. Now, someone looked at their doorbell cam pictures and they noticed a weird picture of someone leaving their porch with the TV up by their head so you couldn't see their face, but it looked like they had a TV for a head. And I was like, someone saw Saga, which is a comic book that has that sort of type of character. But that's just strange. And stranger than usual that someone would go around to a Virginia neighborhood and just drop off old TVs on their porches at night, in the middle of the night, for no reason that we know of anyway. So, like, okay, that's a weird story. That's going to be really interesting for my show. A day later, now remember, that was in Virginia. A day later in New York City, a man was arrested for dropping off rice cookers around town. Now, here's the way you can look at it in two ways. This is the way I looked at it originally, because from what I recall from the Boston Marathon bombing years ago, the person had some sort of bomb made that he had it in, not necessarily a rice maker, but in some sort of weird kitchen type of device thing. And my first thought was this guy was laying bombs all over New York City and was going to detonate them all at one time and cause a massive terrorist attack that would destroy lots of buildings and kill lots of people. That was my original thought. I guess you call me a pessimist, or what's the word I'm trying to find? Cynic. Call me a cynic. The guy was arrested, and that's the reason why I think he was arrested, because I think that that was potentially what could have happened. Because why else would you arrest someone for just dropping off rice cookers? I mean, I guess it was for littering, maybe, but you don't arrest people for littering, even if you place rice cookers all over the city. Now, I think the majority of people, the police, the reason why they went after this guy is they thought that maybe it was a bomb of some kind. Because as I said, I kind of remember something from the Boston Marathon where the guy had pipe bombs or something in a kitchen, sort of like a one of those all-day cooker things, from what I recall. So maybe they were thinking it was going to be something like that. And that makes sense. So that makes sense why you would arrest him. But then you look at the comments on the story, and you never should look at the comments, but I did anyway. Everybody's like, oh my God, he got arrested for giving rice to people. It's like, well, we don't know that. It could have been a terrorist. You would be talking a different story if that was a terrorist and they set off bombs that killed thousands of people in New York City using these rice cookers he put around sporadically. And that in and of itself would, if you didn't get caught, that would be an easy way of causing a lot of destruction without anybody knowing. If you have a specific set bomb set in these rice cookers and you just put a little stupid rice cooker somewhere, that could cause some damage elsewhere, that, in a city like New York City, no one would really care because there's garbage all over the place anyway. I mean, not that it's like a dirty, disgusting place, but there's like trash cans. So it's like, so just, okay, there's another device there. So what? They're not going to think about it. So, it would be an easy way to cause massive, explosions and death and terrorism by doing this without getting caught. So I'm backing why the police did this. But then you start thinking about, well, what if there wasn't bombs in that? And that was, as I said, was my first thought. And I haven't heard anything else about the story. So I don't hear anything about why they were arrested or whatever. I'm assuming it's because they thought it might have had bombs in it, or that the person was released because there wasn't any bomb activity in it. But let's just say for a fact that these weren't bombs. So why the hell was somebody putting rice cookers all over New York City? Either that didn't have rice, or were you wanting people to pick them up and take them, much like the TV guy in Virginia? I don't know. So two really weird stories that happened within about a day of each other in two different parts of this country. It's just there's the oddest stories I think I have this week. It's just, wow. Well, no, here's a pretty odd story too. Elon Musk jokes and brings up again that we should nuke Mars. Now, his belief is, no, we don't want to nuke Mars to destroy it. His belief system is that if we nuke the poles where there are buildup of ice on Mars, the explosion, the heat radiated from that would create the ice caps to melt and have carbon dioxide and oxygen get lifted up into the atmosphere, water come cover the surface of Mars, and you can terraform it again to make it like our planet. That's his belief. Now, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know if he's serious about it, because there's still danger to it, because first of all, it's a nuclear bomb. There's still going to be nuclear fallout. And secondly, even though we might not have found it and everybody has their little jokes about it and stuff like that, what if there is life on Mars? And this is the environment that they live on. And then we go ahead and change it. You're killing an entire species just because you want another planet like our planet, because we fucked up this planet enough. I'm sorry, I said the F word again. We screwed up this planet enough as it is. So take with it as you will. A new vaccine could stop people from having allergic reactions to cats, but not dogs. Does that mean people like cats more? Possibly. Yeah. That's hard to say. But regardless, a vaccine that can cause people who have cat allergies not to have cat allergies anymore, that's actually a pretty good idea. And if it works, obviously you can mix it up to have vaccines that can cause you not to have allergic reactions to dogs or bees or something else like that. It could be a new vaccine that could change the course of human history. So we'll see how that goes. Had some death this week. Peter Fonda from Easy Rider fame, and also Uli's Gold is another one that he's most famous for. Jane Fonda's brother, Bridget Fonda's father, passed away this week. Cedric Benson, a 36-year-old former running back of the Bears, Bengals, stuff like that. I remember Cedric Benson. I think I had him on my fantasy teams a few times as well. He died in a motorcycle accident today at 36 years old. I think he'd retired or wasn't playing anymore, but still, it's still fairly new. He was still a player as of a couple years ago. So that's kind of a sad thing as well. I got to find this one as well. Barbara, I can't figure out this, Mitchell or something like that, died. She played Lursa on Star Trek The Next Generation. She died this week as well. There's one more person, I think. Oh, yeah, Richard Williams. He was the animator who animated Who Framed Roger Rabbit's cartoon pieces, and also won the Oscar for his 1971 adaptation of A Christmas Carol. He passed away this week as well. So we've had some people who've passed away. I think that's everybody right now. Dale Earnhardt Jr. luckily survived a potential. He could have died this week as well, but he and his family survived. Thank heavens for that. And it would have been an even crazier story than his dad dying during a race. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his family were in a plane when the plane crashed, and the crash looked nasty if you look at the aftermath. But luckily, him and his family survived unscathed. Minor injuries, I think, nothing too major. So that's good for that. But the fact is, that's kind of scary as well. Roxbury. Oh, there's a Roxbury Motel, which is in upstate New York. Upstate New York is pretty nice, actually. And it is a motel that's owned by two guys who took it over, I think maybe 10 years ago, something like that, and revamped the entire place. They added, I think, another wing to it. It was a smaller motel. This is in the Catskill Mountains, and they added another wing to it, I think. But what the main thing is that every room in the motel has a specific theme, and they've made that room be that theme. A good example is do you want to sleep in a meringue pie? We'll use the meringue pie room. You enter the room, the ceiling looks like it has whipped cream on it. The floor looks like it is made of pie crust, and you've got pie, paraphernalia and stuff all over the room. There's a science fiction room where there's a skylight, but instead of it showing the sky, it actually shows stars zooming by as if you're flying in a spaceship. And there's other like lasers and all kinds of other stuff. So every room has a specific theme. and a lot of them are suites, so they're going to be a little expensive. But the fact of the matter is, if you go to the room, and I like to maybe check them out on their website to see what kind of rooms they have. They've got a lot of different, but every room is a different theme. So that would be kind of cool to maybe go up there and maybe put that on a bucket list type of thing to see. And that's a really good idea, particularly for people who can afford it, to be able to go to these different motel rooms and have different themed room type of things. That'd be kind of cool. Our first, well, this is more of a winter story. Cinnamon Coke and Winter Spiced Cranberry 7-Up are the new sodas coming out this winter, this holiday season coming up. Cinnamon Coke sounds intriguing. I think they tried that with Pepsi and it was disgusting. And I'd like to see what they do with Coke and see if maybe they tried a different cinnamon flavor or if it's going to taste the same as the cinnamon Pepsi. And then Winter Spiced Cranberry sounds pretty interesting as well. It's also a Winter Spiced Cranberry. So you've got the descriptor that'll get people to go, oh, it'll make me think of winter and Christmas time and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Looking forward to trying those, and I always do, as you know. I do that kind of stuff all the time. Women, do not put garlic up your vagina. Now, I've had these stories. Women have been putting wasp nests up there. And what was last week's story about? There was something about last week. I forgot. Putting stuff up their vaginas to make them feel better or something like that. No, they're saying don't do it. It's not healthy, and it seems to be a new trend. So just don't do it. Scientists and doctors are saying that don't do it. Florida ranch house was invaded by a vomiting vulture. So a vulture vomiting all over a Florida ranch home is not something you want to come see, but it's still a bizarre story, and that's why I talk about it. A comet crashed into the sun this week. Last week, a comet crashed into Jupiter. This week, a comet crashes into the sun. Next week, a comet crashes into the Earth. What? No, just kidding. Or am I? Daredevil moose. Some moose dives off a cliff and swam away as if nothing happened. There's video of him, falling off a cliff, going in the water, and just swimming away. So I don't know if he was diving on purpose or if he slipped and fell and boom, there you are. But he was fine and he swam away. But he's a daredevil moose. Oh, yeah. A New York airport security worker has been fired after giving a traveler a note saying, "You ugly." You don't want to do that. That's just rude and wrong. And there's no place for that in society. Come on, man. Get over yourselves and your cleverness and stuff like that. You're just being a mean asshole. And this is actually an interesting story. When I saw the headline, I was like, what? But then when I actually read the article, I was like, oh, it actually makes a little bit more sense. 23-year-old New Zealand man is now the world's youngest grandfather. Now, I'll let that settle for a minute before I tell you the exact story behind it. That was the clickbait headline. A 23-year-old New Zealand man is the world's youngest grandfather. Now, your first instinct is to think, okay, this guy, your first instinct is this guy must have had a kid when he was 13. And then 10 years later, the girl got pregnant and gave birth at 10 years old, which I guess happens in certain locations. So I don't know about that. And you start thinking about more and more, it's like, how is that even possible? There is no way for it to be possible. And that's when you click on the story to see what it's about. And then after reading the article, you're like, oh, it's a good story. This 23-year-old New Zealand male is like the quintessential good guy. He's a good athlete. He's a track star, I think. Good athlete, track star, handsome. is in a committed relationship with his girlfriend that he's known since high school. I don't know if they're married. I didn't read it all the way, but I just wanted to get the general idea of how the story came about. And he's, good, kind to animals and old people. He's like the quintessential perfect boy. He's like Captain America if Captain America was in New Zealand. Now he gets I guess he connects with one of his cousins, I think on his mom's side, who was in America. And he hadn't seen his cousin in a really, really long time and was excited to hear from her. But then when he found out what was going on with her, he got really worried because he's a good guy. His cousin was like a 13, 14-year-old girl who had gotten kicked out of her house, or her parents died or something like that. Regardless, something happened and she was homeless, having to resort to crime to eat and find shelter and get clothes and stuff like that. And somehow she was able to connect with her cousin in New Zealand. So he heard this story and he says, no, this isn't right. So he says, I'm going to come get you. I'm going to bring you down to New Zealand. We'll take care of you down here. So he flies to America. And when he gets to America, discovers that the one thing she didn't tell him, she was also pregnant. And I think she was able to still get her on the plane, even though you're not supposed to be on a plane when you're pregnant, and took her to New Zealand to get her just away from that. So he decided, this is what I got to do. This girl's got a child, and she's got nothing, and she's 13, 14 years old, something like that. And she's family. He says, I'm old enough. I'm 23 years old. I have a steady job. I was a track star. Things are good. So he applied to become her guardian. And it was a long process, but in the end, he was able to become her legal guardian. Hence, he became her father, even though they were cousins. He became her guardian / father, whatever. I doubt she calls him dad or anything like that. She probably calls him by his first name because but for all intents and purposes, through the law and stuff like that, that's her dad. He's got it. He's willing to take the responsibility to take care of her, get her in school, get her through college, stuff like that. Hence, when the girl gave birth to her child, since he is legally her father guardian, he is now the legal grandfather to this baby. See, pretty good story. So kind of interesting story and a good story. And we need more stuff like that to happen. All right. I got a bunch of local news, so I'm going to hit all this right now. Fisherman catches a barracuda off the coast of Ocean City, Maryland. Now, most of the stories about local news this week is going to be about Ocean City, Maryland. For those who don't know, Maryland has a resort island called Ocean City. It's connected to Bethany and something Delaware. It's a R word Delaware. I can't think right now. Rehoboth. Thank you. So it's a place that it's a resort for the most part. It's a stretch of about 132 streets. Actually, it's more like 140 because there's some smaller ones. Goes from an inlet. The ocean is out here. There's a boardwalk. There's lots of hotels, lots of stores on the boardwalk, lots of beach that goes all the way up to 132nd Street. When then you go back from the coast and you have shopping areas and you have restaurants and you have miniature golf and you have sporting complexes, you have movie theaters, you have houses where people live there year round. As I was talking about living near water. Hotels that aren't beachfront that people can stay on. And it goes all the way to the end, which looks out on Assawoman Bay. Yes, that is the actual name of the bay, Assawoman Bay. So it's an island surrounded by a bay on one side and the ocean on the other. And you've got to cross a bridge to get over it, obviously. So you can have bayfront or you can have oceanfront. Now, bayfront, as I said, is about 2 or 3 blocks away down from the ocean, but still not too far away. But there's, it's got lots of nightlife, clubs, bars, movie theaters, miniature golf, restaurants, hotels, motels, houses you can rent, houses where people live, but you can't rent. It's got inlets, it's got boating places you crabbing and fishing. There's always a huge fishing competition down there every year. They do fireworks, they do everything. It's great. I'm just kind of angry about the mayor of Maryland who is screwing my kids by having school start later in the year so that he can have more people come and give him money. Ocean City, Maryland would be fine if kids went back to school next week, but he's got the governor's ear, and that's not going to happen. I already talked about that, not anymore. Regardless, so some fishermen off the coast of Ocean City caught a barracuda. Now, barracudas are weird fishes that you don't really hear much about. They're big and they're mean. They got teeth. And to have one be that close to Ocean City, Maryland is crazy. Now, we've had shark sightings as well and stuff like that. We also have a whale, which is spotted off the coast of Ocean City, Maryland this week as well. So you got a barracuda and you got a whale as part of our local news this week. Anything else here? Disney, Pokemon. Five were injured. This is also interesting. 5 were injured after a roller coaster crash at the Jolly Roger in Ocean City, Maryland. Now, at the end of the Ocean City, Maryland boardwalk, or you could say the beginning, I should say, the beginning of the Ocean City, Maryland boardwalk, there's a pier that is basically a Jolly Roger fun fest. It's got roller coasters and rides you find at, state fairs and stuff like that, and ways to get stupid stuffed animals and stuff like that, competitions to throw balls at things, stuff like that. Well, apparently 5 people were injured after a roller coaster crashed at Ocean City, in Ocean City, Maryland's Jolly Roger. So that's kind of sucks also. And finally, this isn't good news. This is bad news. This is also local news. A harmful algae that left 3 dogs dead in North Carolina after they went swimming in the algae and they contracted something that killed them has been discovered in Maryland, not just in Ocean City, but in the Bay and stuff like that. So we've had this year, as I talked about on the show before, we've had the flesh-eating bacteria attack somebody, and now we have this harmful algae. And the more and more that this stuff is happening, the more and more you cannot disagree that there's something going on with our climate that is creating this stuff to happen, and it's not helpful and healthy for people and animals, stuff like that. So we need to do something more about that. So hopefully we will, but I don't expect it happening anytime soon. Sour pickle beer from a Texas brewery is the newest beer flavor that I'm going to avoid because I hate pickles. But if you like sour pickles and you like beer, hey, why don't you try your sour pickle beer? Guy gets Employee of the Month from a business he owns and is the sole employee. Now, this is only news because he went on social media and said, look who became Employee of the Month this year, to sort of brag about what he did. Well, yeah, you are the only employee and you own the company. Stupid. Bella Thorne, who is, I don't know much about her, but she's like a younger actress. She's attractive. Is making her directorial debut with a Pornhub film. Now, before you go, oh my God, she's writing for him. It's not necessarily that. Pornhub, apparently, according to this article, has a program where they will give money to people who want to be directors. Now, obviously, they'll expect some sort of sexual activity in it because it's Pornhub, for God's sakes. But I don't think you have to make it like a porno. Though this film does have sexual activity and stuff like that in it, and Bella Thorne, I think, is involved in that in some way or another. She's directing a movie that she can put on her resume saying, hey, I've directed a movie, even though it might have been for Pornhub. So, I mean, direct a movie for anything, hell, it'll get your foot in the door. It doesn't matter if it's porn or junk or whatever. It'll get your foot in the door, and maybe someone will take notice and say, oh, maybe we should give you a try doing something else. Well, a woman is videotaped performing a sex act on a car tailpipe. I think I talked about this one before, but this is a new story. There's a woman decided to fillet, for all intents and purposes, a car tailpipe. No, I don't know. I give up. Sylvester Stallone is rumored for a Disney Plus series about Guardians 3000. I don't know if you remember in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he played a former member of the Ravagers, I guess, that Yondu was like a part of this team with a bunch of other people, and they were supposedly help people before they became criminals and stuff like that. Well, at the end of the movie, Sylvester Stallone was with a bunch of the people who used to be on this team with Yondu, and they said, we need to go do some stuff. So there's talk that they might show a TV show with Sylvester Stallone and those characters doing stuff. Add to the list of stuff Disney Plus can do. I mean, they can do anything they want now. They own everything, so they can do whatever they want on their show, their streaming service. So, yeah, more power to them. Halloween stuff. I like pineapples. I think these are pretty cool. I like light up stuff. I have a light up pineapple upstairs. Well, now there's a creepy light up pineapple made out of tiny skulls, and I want one badly. So I'm going to see if I can try to find that and get that. But it looks like a pineapple. It looks like a pineapple light, but it's made up of little white skulls. So kind of interesting. Okay, page 1 is done. I got 2 more full pages to do, and it's an hour in, so this might be a 3-hour show. Hopefully not. Loot Crate, who I got this shirt from, is actually, and I've stopped getting Loot Crate because I wasn't enjoying a lot of the stuff they were giving us because it wasn't of interest to me. But Loot Crate has filed for bankruptcy. You don't want to see that to happen to anybody. So they've laid off a bunch of employees, but they said they will get out all the Loot Crates that they had promised the people. But after that, you're not going to see any more after that. Now, Loot Crate was always, it was an interesting thing. Every month had a specific theme. You would get a box. And it cost around $25 or whatever. And you were guaranteed a t-shirt and other kind of nerdy, geeky type of stuff, depending on the theme. I've gotten Funko Pops, books, comic books, mugs, oven mitts, just all kinds of stuff, depending upon what the theme was. Time travel, I got like a miniature Matchbox DeLorean of the Back to the Future car, stuff like that. So, kind of worthless kind of trinkets and stuff like that, but kind of fun for geeky, nerdy stuff. But they've filed for bankruptcy, so they're not going to be doing that anymore. Halloween again. Target is starting to stock Halloween costumes for kids with disabilities, which is a plus in my book. I think it's great. You should give a chance for kids that have disabilities, chance to go out trick-or-treating also wearing costumes. So they're creating costumes for kids with disabilities. So I think that's a great idea. So fantastic on that. Also Halloween, there is a Wonderland of 5,000 jack-o'-lanterns, which are all going to be carved into different forms, stuff like that. It's apparently a traveling event that goes around every year. I had never heard of it till this year. And this year they're going to be in 4 locations. This Wonderland of jack-o'-lanterns, 5,000 jack-o'-lanterns. They're going to be in Chicago, Nashville, the hell did I write there? Some city that starts with a P. I can't read that. And Reston, Virginia, which is not that far from here. It's near D.C. So I'm intrigued by that to see what it's like and check it out. 5,000 jack-o'-lanterns, all carved and lit up in different ways and probably different themes. Probably really, really cool. So definitely want to check that out as well. This is something I'm definitely going to get. Where is it? I think it's on this page. You know all about ugly Christmas sweaters. Well, HalloweenCostumes.com is now releasing the first ever ugly Halloween sweaters. And I'm all for that because I love me some Halloween. I love me some ugly sweaters. So I went on to their website and saw them, and there's some really good ones. There's one that's like pumpkins. There's one of a Dracula, which is really cool, which is like blood flowing behind them in Dracula. So that's really kind of cool. There's one where it shows the interior of your bones. There's one that shows, other bones, like the Day of the Dead type of stuff. And then there's one that is like witches stuff and things like that. So, and they come in kid sizes, women's sizes, and men's sizes. They're about $40, which is actually not too bad for a sweater. And while you're there, if you can't find a Halloween costume, go look through their massive catalog of costumes and find your early Halloween costume if you want. So that's HalloweenCostumes.com. Look up the ugly Halloween sweaters. I'm definitely going to try to get one or two of them because they look really, really cool. So that's good on that. In the creepy new item of the day, lip coffee cup covers. You know how you get your coffee from Starbucks or whatever, and you get that little brown sort of sippy top thing where you can drink it that way. There's like a little opening, and you don't get all the coffee coming out at once, but you drink it that way. Well, someone created lips. They'll have that little slot in there so that when you're drinking it, it looks like you're kissing somebody, and the coffee is going, down your throat that way. So that's kind of weird to see, and but it is a thing now, and okay. Original tea blends that are inspired by Studio Ghibli are now out as well. So if you're a fan of Studio Ghibli and tea, go get your Totoro tea and see what it tastes like. There's a car vending machine where you go online, you find the car you want, you pay for it, I guess, online. I guess there's a way you can pay for it online. And then what happens is they send you a giant silver coin, and you go to the vending car place, which is this massive tower. It looks to be about 500 feet tall, whatever, that has all of these cars on specific elevators, all different ones that I guess have been bought online. They put into the spot. You slide your coin in and you press what number your car is in. I guess you're given what number it would be in. And it elevator comes down and the car comes out. And you have, I think, 1 week or whatever to keep it or return it. And if you keep it, obviously, it's your car. If you decide you don't like this car, you can return it and maybe get another one. So that's a unique way of getting cars nowadays, I guess. Lady's big boobs get her stuck in a tree. Now, I love big boobs. That's just me, though. But I know the situations that can occur to actual women who have big boobs, and a lot of them do not like them because of the weight that is on the front that hurts the back and stuff like that. And the specific bras they have to wear, there's special ones that hurt sometimes from what I've heard. And they also get a lot of unwanted attention because, hey, it's big boobies. But this woman was stuck in a tree due to her big boobs. That's another thing why people might not want to have big boobs, because somehow it got stuck between two branches and she couldn't move them. So they had to figure out a way to get her out. So that's interesting. Delaware becomes the first state that will not kill any shelter animals. Now we have, there are certain shelters around here that if an animal is not claimed within a year or something like that, or adopted in a year or whatever, instead of keeping it on forever and ever because they don't have enough money and so on and so forth, and more animals are coming in all the time, they euthanize them, which is awful. It's a terrible thing to euthanize animals because nobody wants them. It's like, it'd be like if we decided to euthanize orphans who were never adopted within a year or so. That would be, it's awful, and it's an awful thing. But Delaware is now the first state where you can't do that. So that's good. So it's a first no-kill state in the United States. That's good. These live-action remakes from Disney have got to stop. They're now talking of a Bambi live-action remake, which is similar to the Lion King one, which is, it's not really live-action because you're not going to have a real deer and real bunnies and stuff like that walking around and doing stuff that you're supposed to. You're going to do CGI characters to do those things. And Ryan Reynolds has been tapped to star in the Disney live-action reboot of Tarzan, which could be fun. But again, we don't really need any more live action reboots of Disney cartoons. But we're going to keep getting them because we're stupid. Cheese certification exams are a thing. In order to certify cheese, I guess you go to one of these gourmet cheese places if it has specific certification, which proves that it's better. It's like a wine or beer certification, whatever. You actually have to get cheese certification, so people smell it, they taste it, they look at the color and stuff like that. They treat it like you do a wine or a certification or whatever. So that's kind of intriguing that something like that happens. Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers wants beer prices cut at Lambeau Field so the fans will get drunk and get crazy and loud and make it an even wilder place to play football in during the regular season. Probably not going to happen because you really don't want to have a whole bunch of drunken reprobates running around your stadium. You might be yelling and screaming, but then you're going to have them trying to run out on the field. You're going to have them getting into fights. It's just not safe. So I don't know if I agree with that, but I kind of understand why you want to get people more excited and more into the game. And that's one way I guess you could do it, but I don't like it. Deadpool Bear is the newest Build-A-Bear, and that's just kind of an odd thing to say, is that you can get a Deadpool Build-A-Bear at Build-A-Bear. And Build-A-Bears are usually more for kids, but the fact of the matter is to have a Deadpool Build-A-Bear is, well, I'm intrigued by it. It's just kind of odd to have at a kid's shop since Deadpool is, by all means, not a kid's movie. An artist transforms company logos into weapons, because why not? The one that they showed specifically was the Nike Swoop. He turned it to a knife, like a little knifey thing with sharp edges, so you can cut people using the Nike Swoop. Okay. Whatever. Man shoves beef brisket propane bottles down his pants and tries to escape from Walmart. This happened not in Florida, but in Nashville, Tennessee. I guess a dude wanted to have some brisket and do it on his grill, but he couldn't afford it, so he stuck it down his pants and tried to escape by shoplifting propane bottles and beef brisket. And you are stinky kitty butt. You're really, really stinky kitty butt. Oh, yes, you got stinky, stinky kitty butt. I got my Jinxie down there. A Florida man was arrested for threatening people with nunchucks. So you always have to have a Florida man story, because why not? But this dude was threatening people with nunchucks, and he's been arrested. So thank heavens for that. Disney, just talking about how bad live action remakes are, but they're fairly successful because film goers are idiots. Disney has become the first studio to have 5 films in 1 year gross $1 billion. So they've made $5 billion this year alone on 5 movies. And we're only in August. They have 2 more big movies that can actually push them to 7 movies hitting $1 billion in 1 year, which is a record by any studio. Now, what are those 5 movies? You can probably figure them out for yourself, but Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, Aladdin, Toy Story 4, and The Lion King live action remake. Those 5. Now, y'all, didn't Spider-Man make $1 billion? I think it did, but they're sharing that with Sony. So technically, they only get maybe half of that. So technically, they only made $500 million on that. So, oh wow, $500 million. What a waste, right? But as I said, you've got 2 more that I know of. I don't know if there's any other ones that I can think of, but there are at least 2 more big ones that will be coming out later this year that Disney may very well easily get another $1 billion ones. One is Frozen 2. It's coming out around Thanksgiving. And the second one is the last J.J. Abrams Star Wars movie, both owned by Disney. So if those 2 hit $1 billion, which I would almost guarantee you they're gonna, 7 movies, $7 billion total for all these movies in 1 year. And that's not even counting what's coming next year. The only studio that's going to be able to beat Disney is Disney, particularly, you got Mulan coming out next year. You've got Black Widow coming out next year. You've got the Eternals coming out next year. So that's three probably right there that would be close to $1 billion. And then who knows what other stuff I can think of. I think there's another Pixar movie coming out, the one that has Chris Pratt and Spider-Man in it, with about modern day, like trolls and stuff like that, living in the modern day type of stuff. So I think that could be another big $1 billion one. I don't know if it will be, but anything's possible. But the only ones can be able to beat Disney is Disney. And right now they have 5 movies that made $1 billion, which is a first for any film company, and 2 more potentially this year that I know of that are going to be able to do it. Plus, I think Avatar, even though I don't like Avatar, it could still possibly make billions of dollars. They're going to start coming out in the next couple of years also. So that could be potentially more things for them to do. So we'll see what happens. But that's just a crazy thing to be able to do. And as I said, they still got a chance to make it even more. Yesterday was the last day of the 50th anniversary of Woodstock. Woodstock was August 15th through the 17th in 1969, which is 50 years ago. So there have been talk and discussions about the Woodstock memories, stuff like that. I saw a list of the bands that were there, and it's like, wow, Woodstock was really a good musical fest, and it was, it's a iconic thing and a once in a lifetime event. So that was this year as well. The University of Georgia Bulldog was named the greatest mascot in college football history. So I guess I can agree with that, but no, I like the Terrapin myself, but that's just me. Maryland Terrapins. Saw this video from a person who posts from Germany. It's hard to describe. They didn't give the name of the sport, but you have a ping pong table. It's a table with a little small net. And 2 dudes were headbutting what looked like either a soccer ball or a volleyball over the net at each other. So one guy would hit it, they have to go over the net, and the other guy would have to hit it. And so they would have to walk back and hit it, but they could only use their heads, couldn't use their hands, and they had to get it over the net and land on the table, or I don't think you need to land on the table. I had to go over the net at least for them to hit it with their heads. And so that was a sport that is currently new and out there right now. Sorceress Kit was discovered in the ashes of Pompeii, which means during the Pompeii stuff, there were actually sorceresses who actually had stuff they used for their spells and stuff going on right there. Man dies after competing in a taco eating contest at the Fresno Grizzlies game. I guess it's like a AA team or something like that, where they always have these types of events. And something as innocuous as a taco eating contest has someone dying. I don't know how that could have happened, either if it was hot, like chilies and stuff like that on it, or he ate too much, or something else, or maybe he was old. I don't know, but that's kind of a sad story when something like that happens. I talked about Wesley Snipes showing up in Dolomite Is My Name, and kind of looked like he's starting to have a comeback a little bit. He's also signed on for the Coming to America sequel, which has started filming today as well. He's also rumored to be playing Dracula in the Blade MCU movie, which, Wesley Snipes was Blade in what could conceivably probably be what set up the possibility for this popularity of comic book movies, because you had Blade come out in the late 90s, and then you had the X-Men, and then Spider-Man and Hellboy, which became all popular, but then the sequel sort of didn't do as well for these movies. And then you roll to 2008 when Iron Man comes out, and that's when you get your stuff. So you could conceivably make the case that Blade with Wesley Snipes was the beginning of the comic book renaissance, comic book movie renaissance that we're in now. But the fact that he's too old to play Blade now, but to have him play Dracula. He's too old to play Blade now, but to have him play Dracula, played like the villain in the new Blade movie, is kind of a really neat idea, and I hope it's actually true. Going back to the past in New Zealand again, a monster penguin the size of a human was actually around in the old days in New Zealand, like in the prehistoric days. So there was actually penguins that were human size swimming around New Zealand. So just imagine that. When you think about, well, if you look at it, emperor penguins can get to be pretty tall, but not like a 6 foot tall penguin. Think about a 6 foot tall penguin. Crazy, man. This weekend was interesting. Maybe a little personal, but also, it's informative. Pokemon Go, as you all know, is something that I like to play. My wife and I, we play it together for the most part. The kids used to be interested in it, but they're not as much anymore. But this weekend is the Pokemon World Championships in Washington, D.C. at the Convention Center. I think this is something that comes to Washington every year because Dawn heard about this last year. I don't remember from last year, but she said last year it's the Pokemon World Championships. Now, it's Pokemon World Championships that consist of, sorry, I'm just trying to get my leg up here, of World Championships in the card game and the video games, but not really Pokemon Go because there's really no competitions in Pokemon Go. So this is all happening down at the Pokemon World Championships, something that happens every year. So last year, and I was, as I said, I don't remember this last year. Dawn does, but I don't remember it last year. Last year was out down at DC again as it was this year. And last year, Pokemon Go decided they were going to join up with it, but not be part of the championships because Pokemon Go really isn't like a championship style type of game where you're competing against someone else. They've added that this year, but it wasn't last year. So, but they decided since it's Pokemon related and people who are going to the championships to watch the games and stuff like that, and all things Pokemon, are probably playing Pokemon Go also. So they decided to turn it into a mini Safari Zone. And last year they had Unknowns out there, which is the one Pokemon that is so hard to find unless you go to these events. And they had them down there. So Dawn, hearing that, says, okay, we're going next year because she thought, okay, they'll do it again this year. So we're thinking, okay, they're going to do Unknowns this year. So we go down to DC, which is great because we drove to Greenbelt, which is about 40 minutes from here. And they have a metro stop that took us exactly where we wanted to go. So Dawn was like, well, we never really went to Greenbelt. They used to go to other metro stops in the area. We never thought about Greenbelt, but Greenbelt's only, as I said, 40 minutes away from the house. And you can be in DC within about 20 minutes. So I was like, that might be a good thing to do if we want to go to DC on a day trip like we did yesterday. I mean, we went down there at 10:30. We left this house 10:30, and we came back here by about 6 o'clock. Actually, about 5:45 to be honest. And we spent a good portion of the day in Washington, D.C. yesterday. But we still were back in time. We still had our morning. We had the evening here in Reisterstown. So it's kind of cool that, it's really easy to do. So we did that, and we get down there, and there are no Unknowns. Yeah. Oh, well, it kind of sucks. But there is a Relicanth, which is only available down in the Southern Hemisphere. So you had to get to do some research to get it. But it was only in the area around the convention center, and then we found out later also around the mall in Washington as well. And then there was another one where you get an Aerodactyl. It turned out that it was like a Safari Zone, which had mostly rock and ground type Pokemon spawning. So we had Shieldons, which we hardly see, and Rampidoses, which we hardly see, or Cranidos, Cranidos we hardly see. But then we also have like ones that are also other rare, like Anoriths and Kabutos and what was the other one? Ammonites and stuff like that. So it was fun getting all these ones that you don't really see all that often. So I caught and hatched literally probably around 200 Pokemon yesterday. I've transferred a majority of them, but I've kept about 50 of the ones. And I was able to get about 9 Relicanths, which is really good because you can't get them up here. So it's good trade bait if I wanted to get something that I really, really want to finish my decks, or just something that I was able to complete my decks with. So it's kind of cool. You can't really evolve them, but I've gotten 9 of them, and I'm probably going to hold on to them for a while unless I decide to trade them out. But we were able to con our kids to go with us by saying we would go to the mall after we hung out at the convention center for a little bit so they could see the new dinosaur exhibit at the Museum of Natural History and the Smithsonian. So we did that, and they actually got to play. They got into playing a little bit, so they also got Relicanths as well, and all the stuff leave it as well. I got a shiny Ammonite. I was the only one in the family to get a shiny something other than our regular stuff. And then it was also Suicune Day, which was the legendary Suicune was going to be a raid boss from 4 to 7. And we left Washington around 4 o'clock when it started and got back up, as I said, about 5:45. So we were able to spend the last hour and 15 minutes up here in Reisterstown doing Suicune raids. We actually ended up hitting 9 raids, which is more than we thought we would. And I caught 2 shiny Suicunes and Dawn caught 1. So it was all in all pretty good day. So that was a pretty fun thing. And next year, if we decide to do it, we'll try to get tickets for the championship to see what the whole hubbub's about. So we'll find out. But the reason why I began to think about why there weren't unknowns this year was because coming up in September in Pokemon Go, this always happens. This happened last year where they have 3 big events that happen during the summer in Pokemon Go, all across the country. There's one in Chicago, one in Japan, and one I think was somewhere in Asia or something like that, or Africa or Europe or something like that. Europe, I think it was Europe. And during those events, those are special safari zones for them. They get special stuff as well. We get some of the Pokemon spawning around our area as well. And we have to do a certain amount of research projects to unlock other content like a Suicune raid or stuff like that. So we did that. We were successful for all 3 of those. So we got like extra stuff for about a week after the event. Well, now because we did really well this year, and they did this last year for us, Niantic, who runs Pokemon Go, gives us an ultra reward for being so good. Last year was a week's worth of stuff, including Mewtwo's who had never been available as regular raid bosses, only in EX raids available as raid bosses. And they did some, I think there was also when they also did this spinny wheel thing where you could get a Clamperl or something like that, was because of that as well. So instead of 1 week, this year, they're giving us 3 weeks, which are all going to be different types of stuff. And we're getting really, really excited because it looks like it's going to be some really cool stuff. And one of the things was the 3rd week, so it sounds like there's going to be some unknown Pokemon floating around. And so most people automatically thought, oh, Gen 5 is going to start, ones we haven't seen yet, because Gen 4 is just pretty much finished up now. And Gen 5 usually starts around the fall anyway. It's like, oh, they're going to start early this year. And they're like, and then most people say, nah, it still seems to be too early. So like, what are we going to do? Maybe they're going to again release like, regionals like the Relicanth, which you can only get in the Southern Hemisphere. Maybe they'll release that stuff like that up here for everybody to get. Because they've done that before too. They did that last year where they released a lot of the regionals away from where they're regional for about a week. And so we might do the same thing here. But then I started thinking about was they didn't do any unknowns here. And the focus is going to be on the Gen 2 Pokemon. And unknown came out in Gen 2. And then when you actually have the phrase unknown Pokemon appearing, I mean, thinking about 3 weeks, we're going to have unknowns all over the place. So fingers crossed on that. I'll keep you updated on that as well. And also, because they love us so much, the Water Festival for Pokemon Go starts this week. I think it's later in the week, like Thursday or something like that, and about a week. So right before Labor Day, it'll be over with, which, believe it or not, is coming up quickly, man. School is going to start soon. And my son is turning 10 next Sunday, 1 week from today. So crazy. So the water event means you're going to see more water Pokemon out and about, which is great because they're always interesting. More water raid bosses, and also you're going to get some shinies that we haven't been released before, Carvanha and Barboach. So some more shinies we can go and hunt for. So all in all, it looks like it's going to be a good about month of Pokemon stuff, and then we'll get into the Halloween stuff, which is my favorite thing, where they change the music up to creepy music and they release nothing but ghost types, which I love. And that's also when they generally start releasing like the Gen 5 characters. So we've got a lot coming up. The fall is going to be amazing. For once, the first 8 months of this year has been extraordinarily shitty for me. Been some good parts, I'll grant, to be fair, stuff like that. And it's more of a personal thing. It's not about my family. I love my family. My family's been great. And some of it's been stuff that happened to my family. My wife literally getting hit by a car, not in a car accident, was hit while crossing a crosswalk, and stuff at my job and stuff like that. But we're not going to discuss that. So it's been a shitty 8 months. So just, what is this? Bug crawling on me. Disgusting. Oh, so you got to see me murder a bug. So fantastic. So that's why I was excited about this week, because I started looking as like there was a lot of fall news and Halloween stuff, and I still got a whole nother page. I still got some other Halloween stuff coming up. Like, as I said, the name of this episode is Pumpkin Spice Spam, which is actually going to be something that's going to be coming out. It's not an onion thing, whatever. It's actually going to be Spam being released in grocery stores that's going to have pumpkin spice on it. So I don't even know if I want to try that. That sounds absolutely disgusting. But that's why I named the episode Pumpkin Spice Spam. So, I'm anticipating that the last 4 months of the year, which has always been my time anyway, fall and early winter has always been what invigorates me. It seems like all big events in my life have happened. Not all, but a lot of big events in my life have happened in the fall. I lost my virginity in the fall. I met my wife and started dating my wife in the fall. I married my wife in the fall. Had a lovely honeymoon in the fall. Had my daughter in late or early winter, December 12th, which is still technically part of the fall. I got a job that gives us a 4-day weekend at Thanksgiving, which is the one holiday every year I look forward to at work, because we are given a 4-day weekend, and I absolutely love Thanksgiving, and I love the 4-day weekend I get, and that's one of the things that's keeping me where I am. But that's, again, not discuss that here. And the weather is different. I like warm weather, but not like today weather. I like cooler weather better. I like temperatures in the 50s to the 70s. That's like my range. That's what's coming up. Football starting soon. I love football. The colors, as I said last week, I think the fall leaves this year are going to be spectacular. I've been going on Facebook and I've been looking at events that are coming at our local nature centers, and I've been tagging each of them so it can remind me, hey, you want to do something? Why don't you go out and do something? I didn't do it last year because of reasons, but this year might be different. And then finding out that this wonderland of 5,000 jack-o'-lanterns I discussed earlier in the show is going to be at Reston, Virginia, which you can get to via the metro. So you drive the Greenbelt, again, 40 minutes, and just drive to Reston, Virginia on the train, do that thing, and then get on the train and come back. So we'll see. So hopefully things are good. Speaking of kind of creepy, weird stuff, a snail was discovered to be attacked by a zombie parasite. It's a parasite that attaches itself to the snail and sort of turns it into a mindless sort of zombie thing. That's kind of creepy. And speaking of zombies, last night Sci-Fi aired Zombie Tidal Wave, starring Ian Ziering and directed by the same guy who did Sharknado and also had Ian Ziering in it. I missed about the first hour of the movie because I had to deal with the kids. So I wanted my wife to watch it because everyone likes her tweets better than mine anyway, but that's besides the point. But an interesting film. Definitely not as cheesy as Sharknado. Definitely not quite as funny as Sharknado. It seemed to have more in common with the original Sharknado, because if you remember the original Sharknado movie, it wasn't all the craziness and all the cameos and stuff like that. It was simple stuff of dysfunctional family who were dealing with flooding, actually, of California due to a tornado in the water, and sharks were in. It was the majority of the film was sharks swimming around Los Angeles because it was flooded with water, attacking people in their homes, stuff like that. But then the tornado comes near the end of the movie and sucks all the water up, and the sharks in it, and that's where you get the Sharknado stuff. And then it went off the rails and became a parody of itself in the remaining 5 movies or so, whatever it was, 4 movies that it was. So there's that. But this seemed to be a lot more like that. I missed the initial zombie tidal wave because that happened at the very beginning of the movie. But basically, it was zombie tidal wave, washed a bunch of zombies onto this island, and then they had to fight the zombies and figure out a way to defeat them. So that was it. So in all, not quite as crazy or as fun as Sharknado, but the more fun was tweeting with the Snark Alex, which we haven't done in a really long time. So there's that. The futuristic contact lenses are going to be able to allow the wearer to zoom their sight just by blinking. So if I'm looking at you right now and I blink my eyes, it can zoom up even closer. So that's kind of cool and futuristic as well. So we'll see how that's going. Speaking of Halloween, a $1,500 Halloween advent calendar is now available through Etsy. It is a Victorian house, pretty solid one from what I've heard. And it has 31 windows that you open and has individually drawn horror sequences in it. Now, as I said, it's done by Etsy, so there's somebody that makes these as their living and sells them, hence the $1,500 price tag. Every Etsy Halloween advent calendar is unique. Everyone has different pictures. So that's kind of amazing. And the fact that it costs $1,500, it's a little expensive, but it's a neat idea. And for those who can afford it, definitely you need to go get it. Dunkin's Cinnamon Sugar Pumpkin Latte is going to compete with Starbucks Pumpkin Spice Latte. Cinnamon Sugar Pumpkin Latte actually sounds a bit better than the Pumpkin Spice Latte, so there might be a new winner of the fall drinks. We'll keep an eye on that as well. Hey, fall's coming, why not? It'd be something I would love to keep an eye on for you guys. Fantastic. That's Star Wars stuff. All right. Jackie Chan could enter the MCU as a character in Shang-Chi. And also Fin Fang Foom, which is the giant dragon bad guy villain type of creature, may also appear in the MCU via Shang-Chi as well. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Massive parasitic creature, speaking of the zombie parasite, was found on a Taiwanese beach. So again, weird stuff getting pulled up out of the ocean due to climate change, stuff like that. This is a massive looking like parasitic creature that looks absolutely terrifying, and I wouldn't even want to think about it. Also due to climate change, there's causing the salmon who migrate upstream. There are issues with building dams, stuff like that, that are causing not to be able to do that, which is causing them not to be able to spawn, which is causing salmon to disappear. So someone decided to create the salmon cannon, which is a air pressurized thing that can shoot a salmon over the dam or whatever to land in the spawning ground safely. So I guess they've been trying it. No salmon have passed away, so I guess it's working out okay. Speaking of people who, I wasn't really speaking of them, but there are people out there who feel that that they are above everybody else, particularly rich people, and that they're better than everyone else. This is just one of those where you have just immaturity. A man, this is a man, he looks like he was like 18, 19, 20 years old. Man pushes a brand new BMW car that his father had gotten him for his birthday into a river because he wanted a Jaguar car. I didn't get my Jaguar. I got a stupid BMW instead. I'm going to trash it. I don't want it. Pfft. Your dad bought you a $50,000 car, and because it wasn't a Jaguar, you trash it? You stupid, entitled son of a... God, I hate people like that. There are Star Wars Barbies available now. So Star Wars, the last Star Wars movie is coming up this year. A way to get people interested into it again, because last week I said Star Wars interest has been dying. Make Barbies that are Star Wars characters, and not just Princess Leia, but might make like female versions of Darth Vader and Han Solo, so like that. Why not? What do you got to lose? Speaking of that as well, the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, the one at Disney World hasn't opened yet, and I think you're going to see a night and day change because Disney World is more popular than Disneyland. Disneyland is the one out in California, and it was the one that had the Star Wars land open first. So they were anticipating it to be a huge opening, tons of people, millions of people there, and they had hired all this extra help, and they were waiting for stuff like that to happen. So when it opened, it was big for a while, but then they've noticed that attendance has dipped massively for the Star Wars Edge world at Disneyland. So they've had to cut workers who they had hired specifically for Star Wars Land because they can't afford them because nobody's coming and there's no need for them to be there. So it's kind of sad, but at the same time, though, I just think because Disneyland is night and day different than Disney World, I think when the Disney World one opens, it's going to be absolutely insane and has nothing to do with people not being as interested in Star Wars as I talked about last week. I just think it's night and day different because Disney World is way different than Disneyland. And we'll see if I'm right. A Burmese python was caught while swimming in a Florida bay. These Burmese pythons are huge and they're killers. And there was actually one swimming in the Florida bay. What is going on with the world? Again, something else that's absolutely crazy. Speaking of more Halloween, something big around Halloween is always the General Mills monster cereals, Frankenberry, Boo Berry, Count Chocula, stuff like that. Well, this year they're going to be teaming up with the Addams Family animated film that'll be coming out around Halloween. So you're going to have the Addams Family competing with the Frankenberry, stuff like that. I don't know in what capacity it's going to be, but it's been announced that there's going to be some sort of competition, or they're going to be working together, or it's going to be a different sort of Frankenberry or Count Chocula this year with a connection with one of the Addams Family characters. So we'll see what happens. Jason Momoa has to take a break from making Aquaman 2 right now. I guess he was getting ready to start making it, but he can't make it now because he was run over by a bulldozer. Now, Jason Momoa is Hawaiian, and he has been protesting, as many Hawaiians have, the building of a telescope on a sacred mountain in Hawaii. And I guess during one of the protests, a bulldozer ran over him, not obviously enough to kill him or injure him terribly, but injure him enough that he's going to need to recuperate for a while before he can start filming Aquaman 2. So Aquaman 2 is now going to be delayed a little bit because of that, but for a good reason. I don't know the whole history or the story behind the telescope protest, but if you're protesting something you believe in, there really shouldn't be a problem with anything. So, concerned with that. A flat earther's steam rocket that he, I guess, was going to ride in to prove that the Earth was flat has been grounded due to the water heater that he bought on Craigslist was defective. Flat earthers are just people I don't even really want to talk about, but they're just so, it just makes me want to just cringe every time I hear a flat earther talk or a we never went to the moon person talk as well. So I don't know. The first plane made out of hemp has been created, and it is stronger than steel. I guess because hemp is a really strong, like hemp ropes and hemp nets and stuff like that are some of the strongest items on the planet. I guess making a whole plane out of hemp is a good idea, but I mean, if it's stronger than steel, it's probably safe to fly. Don't know. Godzilla electric guitar is a thing. So if you're a fan of Godzilla and you want to play the electric guitar, there's actually a customized Godzilla electric guitar you can play. I think his tail is the arm here, and the body is the other part of the guitar. So the body. So the first bike path to cross America coast to coast is about halfway done right now. I think it's a really cool idea. And actually, I was looking at the route. The route takes place in Maryland, or Delaware at least, but it goes through Maryland and heads actually further north. It doesn't take you across the plains. It takes you further up north, across Michigan and Minnesota, and it ends in Washington State, which actually makes sense because Washington probably has more bikers than a lot of states in the area, in the country. So pretty cool. And the fact that it's going to go, the part of Maryland is probably already built, is really cool. That something like that is going on. So pretty cool. 112-year-old fish has been discovered in a Minnesota lake. It is now the oldest freshwater fish in existence. So huzzah for animals and their age. CBS and Viacom have finally successfully merged. It's been going on for years, but they've successfully merged, which is important for Star Trek fans because Viacom owned the rights to the Star Trek movies, where CBS owned the right to the Star Trek TV shows. Now with them merging, all of Star Trek is now under one house, so maybe they can redo Star Trek and turn it into the juggernaut that it was in the 90s. So we'll find out. Boys closer to their moms, study says, are less depressed and do better in school. I don't know how true that is. I thought I was close to my mom, but I've been depressed and I did okay in school. I didn't do great. Noah's close to his mom and he's doing okay in school. And I don't think he's depressed, but he can get sad sometimes. We'll see. Gun freak. I hate these people. This is almost as bad as a flat earther. A guy was, doing a video similar to this. It was probably something like this. And he's showing off his new pistol. It's a shotgun. He's like talking about how cool it is and how great it is. This is a kid. He's like 18 years old, 17 years old. And he's showing off his gun. He's like, yeah, look how cool this is. This is what it is. Take that libs, up in your face. I'm going to use this, blah, blah, blah. And he shoots it, and it blows a hole in the ceiling of his room. I like when they get, because I'm a stupid lib. I like when they get their come up and stuff like that. Oh, it is an ant. Ugh! The second ant I killed today. Why do we have an ant infestation? Ugh. Disgusting. We need to clean this house, I think. Obviously, we need to clean this house. A little girl who was scared of IVs in the hospital. A nurse came up with actually a really ingenious idea. Actually put a teddy bear over, I guess, took out the stuffing, but left the body of the teddy bear and put it over the IV so the girl didn't see the IV, but instead saw this teddy bear just watching over her. It might sound creepy, but it actually is kind of adorable. It's actually kind of cute. A lightsaber attachment has been created to and was given to a woman who had an amputated arm, so she has a lightsaber attachment. Last week I talked about the guy who had the Nerf gun attachment to his arm. Well, this one is a lightsaber attachment, which is pretty cool. The Loki TV show on Disney Plus is going to set up the Jane Foster Thor movie, Thor 4, which also means that Loki will probably be appearing in Thor 4. To answer the questions is if Loki is really dead, he really isn't. Which my daughter loves, absolutely. Study shows that students who learn music or taught music, dancing, and theater are better writers, have better writing scores, and are actually more compassionate. I can see that, and I'm all more for more music and art in general. Dance and theater doesn't necessarily be those types of art, but any type of art being taught in schools to help kids be better than they are. And make them compassionate and life better, because I was able to get all that, and I turned out pretty good, right? The final story of the day, right? Yep. Is angry wasps help police nab a fleeing fugitive after he destroyed their hive. So basically, fugitive's running away from police officers. He's like running through the woods or whatever, and smashes into a wasp's nest, destroying it. Don't think much about it because they don't want to get busted. So he's running away, and all of a sudden the wasps are like, hey, you son of a bitch. And they all start attacking him and start stinging him. And eventually it became so overwhelming that he had to stop, and the police were able to catch him. So that's it for today's episode. All we got left is stuff that happened this week. In 1991, this week, Ren and Stimpy premiered. In 1988, the underrated Young Guns came out this week as well. 1987, Monster Squad came out this week. Monster Squad's a great movie, particularly around Halloween is another good one to watch. 2008 continued the year of Robert Downey Jr. Actually, he was 2007, actually, I think, was Iron Man. No, it was 2008. Continued the year of Robert Downey Jr. making a comeback. Tropic Thunder came out this year. So he had Iron Man come out in May, and then he had Tropic Thunder come out in August, and it did very well. That came out this year, too. That's 11 years ago. 22 years ago, South Park premiered this week. I've only watched the early seasons, and then I stopped watching it after a while because it just got to be too just not interested in it. But there are some good early episodes or stuff. So it's good on that. And then let's do some Check Eye Day stuff. Let's do some Check Eye Day stuff and get you out of here within about just under 2 hours, probably. So today, August 18th, is God's Preeminence Day, Helium Discovery Day, Mail Order Catalog Day, National Bad Poetry Day, National Fajita Day, National Ice Cream Pie Day, Pinot Noir Day. Pinot Noir is excellent. There's actually a Pinot Noir called Lang after my last name, which I don't know if it still exists anymore, but I got one bottle for $25. It's been sitting in my wine rack for about 5 years now. I haven't drank it yet. Serendipity Day is August 18th. Yesterday, August 17th, was Baby Boomer Recognition Day, Balloon Animal Day, Break the Monotony Day, International Geocaching Day, International Homeless Animals Day, National Number 2 Pencil Day, National Black Cat Appreciation Day was yesterday, August 17th, National I Love My Feet Day, National Meaning of Is Day, okay, National Nonprofit Day, National Thrift Shop Day, National Vanilla Custard Day, World Honeybee Day. Wow, that was all yesterday. The 16th, Friday, was National Airborne Day, National Bratwurst Day, National Men's Grooming Day, National Roller Coaster Day, National Rum Day. Why is the rum gone? National Tell a Joke Day, True Love Forever Day, and Tubav Day. August 15th was the Assumption of Mary, I Love Cowboys and Cowgirls Day. I love cowgirls. Reverse cowgirl. What? National Best Friends Day was August 15th. National Failures Day, National Leathercraft Day, National Lemon Meringue Pie Day, National Relaxation Day, Nicholas Chauvin Day. And then tomorrow, the 19th of August, where are you? There it is. The 19th of August is, let's see, boom, next day, is Black Cow Root Beer Float Day. We call it Brown Cow, but it's basically root beer and vanilla ice cream. Cupcake Day in Australia, International Bow Day, International Orangutan Day, National Aviation Day, National Hot and Spicy Food Day, National Potato Day, National Sandcastle and Sculpture Day, National Soft Ice Cream Day, Stay Home with Your Kids Day. Oh, I can't. World Humanitarian Day and World Photo Day. Those are tomorrow, the 19th of August. So next week is my son's 10th birthday. So we will be having a party for him on Saturday at 5 o'clock. So I should be done. We should be done in time for me to do a show on Saturday night. So hopefully that'll be the case. And I'll be able to do the show on Saturday night. If not, we'll try to do it again on Sunday, which is actual birthday. We'll see. I think Dawn's going to have them selling popcorn anyway during those days, so we'll see. Work it out somehow. So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks for watching. This is the second web version of, or rather the cam girl version of Dylan Knows, and hopefully it keeps working. And I'm getting ready to end the stream now. So thanks for watching, and see you next week. We're getting closer and closer to fall. Bye.